Hey everybody, JMan105 here, back with another video, and in sticking with the theme of the Star Trek CCG, we are now going to discuss your draw deck. This is the next thing you're going to be working on after your C deck, where you have put your missions, dilemmas, doorways, and chosen your affiliation. Now you're going to work on your personnel, ships, and your power cards. And I'm going to go through all of that with you and explain to you what they are, what they do, and an example of what I use in one of my decks. So, let's start talking about this, shall we? So, here you are. You've completed your seed deck, you've chosen your affiliation, put your missions together, got your outposts and dilemmas sorted out and everything else. Now you're starting your draw deck. So in keeping with your affiliation, you're going to be choosing ships and personnel that are going to work well together and help you score points to help you win the game. Now, I'm using my Klingon deck as an example this time around because my Klingon deck is my most entry-level deck. It's an easy deck to put together. I keep it around just to play test and play with friends. And basically, it contains these 4 ships. These are all birds of prey, and you're probably thinking, why don't you have a Vorcha or a Negvar or something bigger? This deck is set up around hit and run. I really don't care if I win or not with this deck because I use it to help friends play test their decks. With personnel, and this goes with any deck, this is not Klingon-centric, you want a good mix of personnel. You want personnel that have great primary and secondary attributes as well as able to command a ship to get you started. You also want other personnel with a good mix of skills. Like Tumek here, he's a civilian, but he has exobiology, honor, law, and the extra skill of science, and I can download Grilka, who is in the deck. I have cards like Takar. He's a minor staffing icon and a security, but he has the secondary skill of engineer, navigation ×2, and treachery. That personnel alone is useful to have on a ship to attempt certain missions. Kirak is a very science-oriented personnel, which is a rare thing for Klingons, so it's good to have. Quark, son of Keldar, it's more of a laugh than anything else, but you can't negate the skills that this card brings to the table. Civilian with leadership, greed, computer skill ×2, honor, believe it or not, honor, and all attributes are +3 if he's with Grilka. What's not to like? Medical personnel, again, few and far between with the Klingons, good to have. And I even have Targs. I have 2 Targs in this deck. The reason for that, even though the Targ's an animal, all non-Targ Klingons strength +1 where present. Nullifies 1 just played rogue Borg where present. Very, very useful card. And I have that mix. As you can see, I have more personnel, which I'm not going to get into. Needless to say, I have about 21 personnel in this deck and 4 ships. I will completely staff 3 of those ships with 6 or so personnel. The 4th ship I'll keep in reserve in case I need it at a later date. I can report it to the outpost or whatnot. But it's a good mix. It's a basic personnel / ship setup for a deck. It doesn't work with every affiliation, mind you, but when you're dealing with birds of prey and a lot of Klingons, it helps. Now, we're going to move into what I call the power cards. These are your events, your equipment, your interrupts, and depending on the type of deck or affiliation, any other miscellaneous cards that you're going to be playing on the table. Certain doorways, certain artifacts that play as equipment cards after you've uncovered them, etc., etc. I'm not going to show you every single card in the draw deck, but I'm going to give you an idea of what's in this Klingon deck. I have a couple copies of Rescue. It's a very useful card. Obviously regenerates a card, or you can exchange it for an event from your discard pile. I have Red Alert, mainly because if I can play this soon enough, I can get all of my ships out at one time and start staffing them and sending them down the space line, and personnel that might be in my hand, and equipment. I have Masaka transformations, a couple of these. Plays on any player. That player must shuffle entire hand, place on bottom of draw deck, then draw the same number of cards from the top. Useful. Where no one has gone before. Plays on table. Allows all your ships to leave one end of the space line and enter the other end. Very, very useful card in any deck. In terms of equipment, I like to tailor equipment to affiliations. In this case, I have Klingon Disruptor and a Batleth as my weapons. I do have a Klingon pad in there somewhere, maybe 2 of them. And I also carry a couple Plasmodyne relays. While on a ship, range and shields are +2. While on a station or outpost, shields are +4, cumulative. This is handy when you're playing with a lot of birds of prey that have lower weapons and shields than other ships. So you're automatically getting a range and shield boost to these birds of prey. So range 7, shields 8, that would automatically become range 9, shields 10, etc., etc. So it's a very useful card to have in any deck, more so in the Klingon deck. In terms of interrupts, I want cards that are going to screw with my opponent but also help me at the same time. Auto-destruct is a no-brainer when you're playing with the Klingon. Sometimes you'll get into a no-win situation. Better to blow up your own ship unexpectedly than let it be captured or destroyed. Transwarp Conduit doubles your range. Awesome. Kevin Uxbridge Convergence. This is a mainstay in most of my decks. Destroys all event cards in play at any one spaceline location, including those on ships. If you want to mess with your opponent, that's the best way to do it. Hail, you might not think of hail, but plays on any ship flying by one of your ships. It must stop at your location or select 2 ships. They cannot battle each other this turn. That can be huge if you're trying to avoid battling your either more powerful opponent or the fact that he has more ships available and better ships. And gives you an extra chance to score some points without getting your ass kicked. All of these cards combine to make your draw deck something that is going to help you score points and win the game. Some people will say that I have far too many cards, especially power cards, in my draw decks. It depends on the deck. In my Klingon deck, I have a lot of equipment. You can see I have a stack there. A good amount of interrupts and a good amount of events. Again, this is a play testing deck. I'm not going to take it to a tournament, but it still works. In a tournament deck, I would lower the amount of power cards and maybe increase the amount of personnel and ships. But you get the gist of how the draw deck works now at this time. Stay tuned for future videos, and thanks for watching.